Okay, the informal city commission, meeting of the city commission is called to order. Clerk, call the roll.
Mrs. Brown?
Here.
Dr. Estrop?
Here.
Mrs. Houston?
Here.
Mrs. Tackett?
Here.
Mr. Rue?
Here. City manager.
Yes, Commission, tonight we have one work session item, and that is a presentation on the current CTC school levy. And it's presented by a variety of CTC levy board members, which includes Julie Wallace, Ed Leventhal, Jamie Callan, and Mike McDormand, represented by Horton Hobbs. I don't know if you're actually on the board or not, so.
Good evening. My name is Julie Wallace. I'm the treasurer at Springfield Clark TTC. We are on the ballot one final time trying to secure OFCC's $39 million towards our project. We've changed two things on the ballot this time. One, we were having a name recognition issue, so we made sure that JVS is also included on the ballot with TTC because we did a name change about 20 years ago and some folks still get used, but CTC is still the JVS. The second thing we've changed is the actual language in the millage. We now have a bond and we have a PI. So 0.94 mils is towards the bond, which has a 37-year term, and 0.46 mils is towards the permanent improvement. So it's still equivalent to 1.4 mils from the entire county. Like I said, the OFCC is giving us $39 million. And basically, it's going to cost $49 per $100,000 of county auditor's appraised value, or $4. While we have many successes at the CTC, some of our great challenges right now are undersized classroom space, which limits our enrollment, and also aged buildings. We are 6 years old. We're the oldest JVS in the state. And so with that comes many repairs. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Eddie Leventhal.
First, I wanted to thank each of you commissioners for your exceptional service to our city and for the time and energy you've put into working to make our city and community a better place to live, work, and enjoy the many good things we have in our community. I personally very much appreciate all you have done, and I very much support what you're doing and the path you're taking. Please keep on keeping on. We very much need your continued strong leadership. I'm here as a former CTC board member, city school board member, and a current local business owner, speaking in support of the CTC facilities levy that is on the November ballot. As some of you may know, I used to own A&E Powder Coating and Valco Industries. In March of 2021, I sold both our businesses to our employees. And today we are proudly a 100% employee-owned company. One of the major reasons why I chose this path was to guarantee that both companies remained in Springfield and that the people working for us remained employed by a company that is locally owned and in fact is actually owned by the people working there. Staying a successful and viable business relies on having a dedicated, well-trained workforce. CTC has been a valued and much-needed partner in providing our company with well-trained employees, most of whom are welders. Over the past 7 or 8 years, we have hired 11 or 12 CTC students, many of them during their senior year on a part-time basis, and upon graduation, they become a full-time employee as well as a company owner and shareholder. During their senior year, each student is paid a competitive wage, is paying taxes to the city, improving their welding skills, and ready to become a productive employee. Our community's future success, growth, and economic development is very much tied into CTC's success and growth. This passage of this levy for a new state-of-the-art facility will ensure they are able to reach more students, offer more career paths, and provide a safer learning environment for their students and their staff. Our community cannot afford not to provide a seat for every student who wants to attend CTC. Every year, they turn away 100 or more students because they do not have the space. This is hurting all of us, and it's hurting us attracting new jobs and new companies. I'm proud to say that the city voters voted yes both times this has been on the ballot. And in fact, in the March primary, we had over 56% yes voters from the city. This November is our last shot at having a new expanded CTC facility, of which the state will be providing nearly $39 million for the facility. This is a great investment with a great return on our investment. We need your yes vote, and as importantly, we need you to reach out to your many contacts and encourage them to vote yes on the CTC levy in November. Thanks for your support.
Well, gee, I feel kind of redundant after that presentation, but there are a number of things about the CTC and CTE programs I think that are very important. It is a program that works. CTC graduates are vital to our local workforce, filling critical jobs in healthcare, engineering, IT, and other high-demand fields. The last two senior classes made over $2.2 million while still in high school. Should vote yes for CTC is because 97% of the students that attend our school graduate in 4 years. They go into a career path within 6 months. This includes 50% of our students who live below the poverty line, and yet they graduate on time. Over 20% of our students are identified with disabilities, and yet they excel in a career. Our student body is a diverse representation of all of Clark County. They excel in both academic and CTE achievements. Last year, the CTC met 9 of 9 federally mandated indicators and earned 5 of 5 stars on our state report card. I think this investment is really a reasonable program, a reasonable expense for the value that we get out of this. By voting yes on this levy, we certainly ensure a brighter future for our students, our local businesses, and the entire community.
Good evening. Thank you, commissioners, for your time, and thank you to the CTC staff and board members for your dedication and commitment to CTC. I'm Horton Hobbs, Vice President of Economic Development for the Greater Springfield Partnership, and I'm filling in for our President and CEO, Mike McDormand, tonight. I had a script, but I think many of you know that I don't often use those. I will just tell you that anecdotally, our chamber board, comprised of 19 community and business leaders, toured the CTC facility last week. We had our board meeting there and spent about an hour and 20 minutes, not only with students, but also with faculty and staff as we walked and toured the facilities. I can tell you firsthand that those facilities are in dire need of an upgrade. They are a critical asset to our community and serve as an incredible learning asset in the condition that they're in. Imagine the kinds of production that can come with new facilities. I will tell you, in my role, working to attract new companies and certainly working with our partners to grow the companies we have, state-of-the-art facilities do make a difference. But I will tell you, it's our students that make all of the difference, and our companies see that. We work very closely with CTC. They're one of our major foundational partners in the work that we do with all of the school districts. and they lead in many areas from internships to being at job fairs and explorations. And what's critical is we have an 8th grade career exploration in this community where every student in Clark County, including the city and all county schools and parochial schools, takes a youth science assessment to help a student understand their aptitudes, their God-given abilities. And for many of those students and for many of our employers, it's the need of skilled trades that is the most in demand. And if those 8th graders are finding out early on where their aptitudes lie, and it points them in the direction of CTC, we must do everything we can in our community to ensure that we have the capacity and we have the facilities to allow these young children an opportunity to have a career here in our community. Our board unanimously has endorsed this levy on every occasion it's been presented. We did it again this time, and my goodness, I hope we never have to do it again. We cannot, as a community, turn away $39 million nearly in support from the Ohio School Facilities Fund for this particular project. It is a critical asset, and I will tell you unequivocally that our employers need CTC, our families need CTC, and it is a critical cog in our workforce development wheel in this community. I encourage my fellow residents, I'm a lifelong resident of this community, and I encourage all of our residents to vote yes for the CTC JVS levy. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that excellent presentation. I wholeheartedly support this. Thanks for sharing the information, and I do hope it does pass. I know there's other commission comments. Dr. Estrop?
Thank you. I want to thank all of you for your service to this community and specifically to education. Your commitment over the years to make this a better community and to invest in our youth is fantastic. And I cannot say any more deeply, any more sincerely than to say thank you to you. I think it's important, and Horton touched on this, all of you did. You know, as I get out and about in our community, one of the things that people seem to be concerned about is, oh, I'm having trouble getting a contractor, or I'm having trouble getting somebody in the skilled trades, or where can we find people to work in IT, or what about all of the opportunities in the health and service industry? Those needs are met by the students coming out of CTC, out of the old vocational school. And we should, if we want to, in fact, have a healthy workforce that's going to meet the needs of this community, we need to invest in those children and make sure they have opportunity to pursue those. And the fact that we're turning away, was it over 100 a year? We're turning away 100 students who could be doing the jobs in this community that need to be done, and we don't have room for them. I think that cries out for action, so certainly will have my support, and I think if you stay around for the beginning of our official meeting, I think this commission may be in a position to want to take some action in support of your effort.
Comments?
Yeah, thank you again for going at it one more time, just emphasizing this is the last shot to the community to get this passed for CTC. My sisters and I went to CTC, and I think it's really important to recognize about the blending of the county and the city students, and it gives them an opportunity to meet a variety of students and build their network. CTC has fantastic educators. I get to go into the classrooms every year and meet with students, and I'm thankful for the work that's being done there. Like Dr. Estrop said, in the past few years, especially, we've been highlighting the need of skilled trade. How fortunate we are in Springfield and Clark County, and as a community, to have a variety of educational opportunities, such as CTC, such as Wittenberg and Clark State. I like to also mention that my son goes to CTC now, and we're just a very proud family of CTC, and we wish you all the best, and I will take a yard sign. Thank you.
Other comment?
I
Thank you, sir.
might
Go ahead.
Might add for us older people in the audience, CTC is the former JVS. So we've had a number of people ask us who CTC is. And when we mention the former JVS, the lights go on. So again, we've tried to add that, but for some reason, we've had a hard time making the transition of branding of CTC. So for those who remember the JVS, vote for CTC.
How many years has it been CTC? How long?
At 20.
20? Wow. Okay, I'm with you. It was JVS.
Right, I still say JVS. I was very tickled when I saw the sign. I can't believe it either.
I would like one of your yard signs also.
Same.
Thank you.
I have one for each.
Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Way to go, Hobbs.
Okay. Thank you very much. Is there a motion to adjourn the informal meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Clerk, call the roll.
Mrs. Brown,
Yes.
Mrs. Houston,
Yes.
Dr. Estrop,
Yes.
Mrs. Tackett,
Yes.
Mr. Rue.
Yes. Okay. The public hearing scheduled for
You need to leave that
6:55
stuff
is
there
called to
for
order.
people to
Clerk,
take.
call the roll.
It's
Mrs. Brown,
here.
Dr. Estrop,
Here.
Mrs. Houston,
Here.
Mrs. Tackett,
Here.
Mr. Rue.
Here. Has proper legal notice been given for this hearing?
Yes. Notice of a public hearing for the purpose of considering the proposed change in zoning 31.48 acres located along East National Road and from RPD Research and Development Park District to PD Planned Development District was published in the Springfield News Sun, a newspaper of general circulation within the city. Attached hereto is a true and correct copy of the legal notice published on August 29th, 2024.
I move that the communication be ordered received, recorded in the minutes, and filed.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Clerk, call the roll.
Mrs. Brown,
Here.
Mrs. Tackett,
Yes.
Dr. Estrop,
Yes.
Mrs. Houston,
Yes.
Mr. Rue.
Yes. Staff report.
Good evening, Commissioners. So this is a rezoning request and PD district amendment for Melody Parks on East National Road. Melody Parks initially consisted of 9 parcels, which were rezoned to planned development, which is shown in pink on the map in June 2022. 4 additional parcels are currently zoned City RDP, Research and Development Park. The proposed plan shows these parcels will become part of the larger development, and the applicant is requesting to rezone those to Planned Development District as well. Since there are major changes to the plan, including the addition of these parcels, the PD ordinance requires amending. For the analysis, the Clark County Comprehensive Plan shows this future character area as mixed use, high and low intensity. A mixed-use development that includes commercial and residential uses is envisioned for the subject parcels and will complement surrounding uses. Per the proposed plan, the parcels in green will become green space, parcels in orange will become commercial mixed use, and parcels in yellow will become residential single-family use. The proposed amendment will add residential and commercial lots to the existing plan. East National Road is classified as a state road and 100 feet wide and as a primary arterial right-of-way by the Clark County Thoroughfare Plan. Return reports from city staff recommended approval with no concerns. The parcels requested for rezoning will complement the overall vision for our community by providing opportunities for growth. Pending approvals, subdivision plats will need to adhere to development standards as specified in the PD text and ordinance. Any revisions or actions pertaining to the plats are to be reviewed and acted upon by the CETA Regional Planning Commission. The overall staff recommendation for the applicant's request is approval of for the proposed rezoning of 4 parcels on East National Road from RDP, Research and Development Park, to PD, Plan Development District, and to amend the existing Plan Development District Master Plan to add areas for future development highlighted on the slide. Applicant's request was recommended for approval by the CETA Regional Planning Commission at their regular August meeting. I'm available for any questions, and the applicant is also present.
Comments, Dr. Estrop?
Couple of questions. One, was there any opposition from anyone or any group up to tonight's hearing?
No, there was no opposition that I'm aware of.
The other question I have is, was it approved by the CETA board? Were there any negative votes on the CETA board?
No, it was a unanimous approval.
Very good. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Other comments from commissioners? Other comments from the audience on this hearing only? Hearing none. Is there a motion to adjourn the hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Clerk, call the roll.
Mrs. Tackett,
Yes.
Dr. Estrop,
Yes.
Mrs. Houston,
Yes.
Mrs. Brown,
Yes.
Mr. Rue.
Yes. The formal meeting of the City Commission is called to order. Clerk, call the roll.
Mrs. Brown,
Here.
Dr. Estrop,
Here.
Mrs. Houston,
Here.
Mr. Tackett,
Here.
Mrs. Tackett, I'm so sorry.
He's home.
Mr. Rue.
She's going to get us all by
Yeah,
by the
I-
time it's all said and done. Yeah.
Here. Okay. I'd like to read something before we stand for the invocation and the pledge. We're going to honor Dave Hobson. Dave Hobson was a congressman. He passed away just very recently. He was a remarkable public political leader. His dedication to Springfield truly made a difference. His genuine care for our community and unwavering commitment to positive change has left a lasting impact on Springfield. Dave Hobson was not afraid to reach across the aisle and pull people together to try to get things done for our area, along with other things of influence that he was involved with concerning the government. Mr. Hobson's leadership and guidance will be deeply missed, and his legacy will continue to inspire us all. We're going to stand for a moment of silence, followed by the pledge. The City Commission remains committed to creating a meeting environment that allows for civil and constructive dialogue as we work together on the challenges facing our community. Tonight, we will continue to have a public comment period at the beginning of the formal meeting. Those wishing to speak must fill out a comment card at the table located just outside the forum doors. No new cards will be accepted 15 minutes after following roll call for the formal meeting. Failure to complete a card with the information requested will result in being ineligible to speak during the meeting. Speakers who reside in Clark County will only be the individuals invited to speak and must present either a driver's license or state-issued ID. If a speaker has been found to knowingly provide false information on the public comment card, it will result in disqualification from speaking during public comments at this meeting and the next commission meeting. After the public comment period, we will hold a city commission comment period to provide an opportunity for commissioners to respond to public comments. We will also ask the city manager and staff to answer questions that were posed during the public comment period that do not require additional research. Questions requiring additional research by staff will be followed up in the next couple of days, and the person asking the question will be contacted provided they've given the correct contact information. All questions not answered during the meeting will also be posted on the city's website prior to the next commission meeting. Again, we want to create a conducive environment for constructive dialogue, and we will continually learn to evolve and create such an environment. After the comment period, we will take a 5-minute intermission before proceeding with the legislative agenda. Due to the heightened security measures, we ask members of the audience not approach the dais. I'll be following up with comment cards. I'll read your name and address, and then you'll be asked to speak. Is there a approval of minutes?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Clerk, call the roll.
Mrs. Brown,
Yes.
Dr. Estrop,
Yes.
Mrs. Houston,
Yes.
Mrs. Tackett,
Yes.
Mr. Rue.
Yes.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
request a point of personal privilege, please.
Yes, go ahead.
If my colleagues are willing to second this, I would like to make a motion endorsing the CTC JVC levy and encourage the people of the city of Springfield to continue to support career technical education with their vote.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Are there comments from commissioners? From the audience? Clerk, would you call the roll?
Mrs. Brown,
Yes.
Mrs. Tackett,
Yes.
Mrs. Houston,
Yes.
Dr. Estrop,
Yes.
Mr. Rue.
Yes. Point of fact, this is a resolution. We've talked about resolutions over the last few weeks. This is an example that we are voting to support an initiative. So this commission agreed to support this initiative, which is the passage of the levy for CTC JVS. Thank you, Dr. Estrop.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll continue on with public comment, beginning with Melissa Skinner, 924 Grant Street. If you'd like to go to the podium, please.
So as I stand before you tonight, I'm excited to see what solutions have happened from 2 weeks ago. I do have to say that I appreciate the areas the State Patrol has stepped in and helped out with the driving issue. As I stand before you tonight, I want to say our youth issues are very important. I am not sure that if we cannot even have a high school football game without half our law enforcement having to go to service that this is the answer to have a community center for them. I believe our juvenile system court is broken and we need to get that under control. I am all for having somewhere for the kids to go, but it has to start with home. And if they get in trouble, then we need a system that is working so they become good adults. I am still waiting from 2 weeks ago for an answer as to the number for the victim's advocate and where we stand on new charges for the youth on the four-wheeler so the victim can get help. Last, I do care about our homeless and what will happen to them. I know some may not want help, some maybe do and don't know where to go or how to get it. To say they need to get a job, shame on you. Our poor pantries and shelters need to keep going to help, not just the homeless, but our people on fixed incomes that are trying to survive. I pray a plan is coming together for this issue. Next is our veterans. They are important as well. They gave all for us, and programs and help needs to be in place and stay for them. To say that issue isn't important is shameful as well. We have a Veterans Affairs office in the city, and they do a great job. It's okay to be passionate about an issue, but to say that someone else's is not right. We all have things to bring to the table that's important. I pray that our city can move in a direction this evening to stop the nonsense of blaming MS, T, and JV, etc., to name a few. I pray we can start with people who are renting and making a killing off people who are allowing them to drive a car without proper license and insurance, to hold people accountable for the things that they are doing to break the law and let punishment fit the crime. For our health services to be safe, for the doctors and nurses and others, despite the things that are not being reported to our health department. We need to get our services help, and they need it. How will we know what the money from the governor is going for? I believe the sarcastic comments and speeches and silly things that happened last meeting do not help solve any issues. This city government needs to get it together to solve some serious issues and stand up for the citizens that you swore that you would protect. The people of this city deserve it. I believe if you can all turn some things around, you will see that motto, forward together and stronger together, happen and move this city in a mighty direction for our future.
Thank you, Ms. Skinner. Robert Spinelli, 921 Gothic Street, please take the podium.
A few weeks ago, Governor gave money to the city to help with law enforcement and services that we needed in the city. Instead of the highway patrol, which won't be here forever, why have we not taken that money and put it into hiring more police, more fire, and more EMT? You wanted this to be a big city, you're getting it. But we don't have the services for it. Our side streets, why are they not being repaired? You've got potholes all throughout the city, but you don't do anything to fix the problem. Rent is out of control. We have people in tent cities, children that don't have a home to go to. And yet, you guys don't seem to be doing anything. I don't see anything going on. You got money, you can get money from the federal government and the state. Why don't you get it and invest it in the city? You all took an oath to take care of this city, to serve us. Like the Constitution says, it's for the people. And another thing I would like to say, and I'll address this out. I'm tired of the hate groups coming to Springfield from the left and the right. We can do this in this city with the right resources. We don't need outside people coming in and causing the problems that they do. Thank you.
Thank you. Helen Brown, 4210 East National Road. Helen Brown. Melanie Stacy, 300 Enon Road.
Short, sorry. I basically just had a couple questions, and I had one comment from the last meeting. There was a gentleman that got up here and spoke about the homelessness and said that basically they just need to get a job. You know, the homeless demographic in the city and the county is changing, and a lot of it has to do with the housing issue. And I know we need housing, and it's not there, but it is changing, and that I've heard stories directly from this person that there's a woman and her 4 kids that are now living in tents in their car because they got kicked out of their housing. You know, their lease that they'd had for years went month to month, and they didn't realize that they could be given a 30-day notice to leave so that they could rent that property for a lot more money. And that's sad. And just for someone to get up here and tell them just to get a job, this lady has a job, but right now her job can't support her and her 4 kids for an affordable housing rate here. And that's really sad. The next thing I want to say is related to the housing is I know that Mark Sanders a couple months ago got up here. He gave, I think, Rob, you an assignment about checking into certain addresses. And there was one address I think you even verified that had maybe 60 people living in a 4-bedroom, 2-bath house. Are we doing anything if we're finding out about these houses that have all these people living in what should be single-family dwellings? Are you guys able to go out and do anything about it? You know, we've heard stories about people renting by the bed, not even by the room, by the house, people renting by the bed. And now I heard that they're renting by the shift of beds, that there's so much need for housing that they're renting and the people are having to leave with their backpacks to go to their jobs and then come back and share that bed with somebody else. And that just seems absolutely ludicrous to me. So I just have that question there. Also, I know Crystal, with all of the controversy that's happening, there was a gentleman that came and spoke, I don't remember his name, from the Haitian Community Center. And you were going to go, I thought, and speak with them to see if we could get some kind of a bridge going and how that they can better assimilate. And then we can also, the citizens, do our part as well. Did you get a chance to go? I don't know if you did or not. And I know you're busy. I know you guys have a lot going on with threats and protests and everything else going on. But I was just curious if that had happened yet. The next thing I had is, I know Governor DeWine and even John Legend has gone on record saying that that a lot of the immigrants have come here for employment. Do we have that many jobs available? Do we have 20 to 30,000 jobs? And I know that there's also a big number about how many immigrants are really here. I think Brian Heck, I saw a letter that maybe you sent out in July to Sharon Brown and others saying you thought then that the number was 15 to 20,000. And if that's the case, obviously we're way higher than 20,000 now, even though I know some things that are still being put out say that it's 15. So I think that having proper numbers could really also help. It doesn't do anybody any good to get false numbers out there. And my last question is FEMA. We just got back from North Carolina. We took 2 loads of supplies down. So I know that FEMA's in the news and everyone's saying that FEMA's taking money from the victims down there and giving it to immigrants. I've looked into the FEMA situation. And I do know that FEMA has separate funds for the immigration problem. I've seen they've given funds to cities under certain programs. And Denver, New York City, Atlanta, I know those are a lot bigger than Springfield, but they are giving grants to cities, not state cities. Why haven't we applied? Can we apply? They did 2 disbursements this year. The first disbursement, they had funds left over that weren't even awarded because they didn't have enough applicants. So, New York City got $20 million. Can Springfield, Ohio get this money? It's available to help with immigration, with the immigrants coming here to help them have safe harbor. So I'd like to hear anything that you know about that. And then my final statement is, I worked here in the city for 15 years. We've bought property. We're building here in Springfield. And it's pretty sad some days that as citizens that we can't express our concerns without being called racist. I'm an empath. I'm a Christian. I feel deeply for the immigrants coming into this city. I understand they want a better life, and I wish that for them. But their chance at having a better life should not come at the expense of your citizens that are already here.
Thank you, Melanie, for your comments. I want to encourage people that are asking questions and spending time to make statements for 3 minutes that we're actively listening and to please stay. We will have answers following all the comments. Mike Lowe, 1537 Brook Hollow.
I was here 6 weeks ago and I asked for my money back because we didn't have enough police on the force from that levy that we paid. I got a letter from Jill Allen telling me that individuals cannot get money back. So I want to ask today, did Jill Allen receive a letter from an attorney about the number of police that are on the force? I know I have 3 minutes, but I'm not going to read all of this. As you know, the city charter combined with an additional tax levy in 2017 that requires that a full-time police force of 130 sworn officers be on the streets. Section 97 of the city imposed tax on the property owners in the city of Springfield was supposed to support this levy. This section of the chapter requires that for the duration of the assessment, the Springfield Police Division shall consist of no fewer than 124 officers. Therefore, the total number of sworn officers is not at full capacity. As of today, we have 119. The chapter also requires that all money generated by the assessment shall be placed in a separate interest-bearing fund, and any and all interest accrued remain in such fund. Any monies only for the maintenance of the force is required by Section 97 of the Charter. To the extent that the taxpayers are using these funds for the city, you should also demand that such funds be returned to the taxpayers from the city of Springfield. Since City Council and City Manager have been well aware of this failure to maintain an accurate police force. So therefore, you have 14 days to respond to this or legal action will be taken. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Jerry Taylor, 6552 Fletcher Chapel Road. Please take the podium. No. Glenda Bailey, 732 Mound.
I have some questions. Whose idea was Haitian Flag Day? Who approved it? What nonprofits did the city coordinate with to implement it? Did Haitians pay to use Veterans Park for their concert, or did a nonprofit pay for it? Does the rent you receive come from any government agency or nonprofit? If so, which ones? Today, a video broke of a Haitian cutting up what appears to be a dog in a backyard at Red Coach Village. There are other videos all over the internet that shows Haitians torturing and consuming cats and dogs. You can deny it's happening, but the facts prove you wrong. Most Haitians are born at home with no doctor in attendance to certify the birth. There is no functional government agency in Haiti that is handing out official birth certificates. Haitians are creating false identities through the CBP One app using their phones. You don't know who they are or what their background is, yet you protect them instead of the citizens who pay your salaries. This issue is not going away anytime soon, and it will only grow larger the longer it takes for you to start protecting the American citizens of this city. The Haitians in Springfield are not migrants. They're paid mercenaries, occupiers, and soldiers of a foreign army supported by American tax dollars. You said there were 20,000 here. Now you're backtracking on the number. Were you lying then, or are you lying now? It's national news that FEMA spent all of its funding on migrants, and there is nothing left for hard-hit Americans of hurricanes and flooding disasters who are currently in desperate need of those funds. People are angry that you and others like you put foreign invaders first and Americans last. Thank you.
Diane Daniels, 40 Hedgley Road. No, would you please, sir, you're going to have to leave. Sir. Hey. Sir. Can I please have the police take care of this quickly? Also, the individual in the back. The individual in the back also, please.
America has messed up the rest of the world even worse than what it's done in this country.
The individual in the back also.
Is a fascist. The Democrats are war criminals.
Hey, Miss Bailey, the gentleman in the back, everybody that was causing unrest, and the gentleman here, thank you so much. Would you leave too, Miss Bailey? And then whoever else was yelling needs to go, please.
This lady right here.
Glenda, I'd like you to go first, please.
You know it, man. You're on some bullshit. You fucking know it. Fucking pussy.
You're gonna ask me to leave. This lady needs.
Whoever outburst, I'm going to ask you to leave, please.
She outburst at me.
If you outburst, please, on your own, leave. Thank you. Diane Daniels.
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to do a little public service announcement to normies out there who get most of their news from MSNBC and so on. I'd like to say thank you to the investigative reporters that have been here in Springfield over the last 3 to 4 weeks that have produced amazing copy and have dug up an awful lot of information. First of all, I'd like to thank Asra Q. Nomani from the Jewish Journal, who has produced 2 perfectly amazing pieces about what's happening in Springfield. And for those of us who have read her articles, we have come to an understanding that there are 2 sets of victims. And I want to thank her from the bottom of my heart for changing me, at least a little bit. We, the American citizens here in Springfield, are victims, but so are the Haitians. They are being victimized to the most heinous degree by people here in Springfield that are American citizens and are Haitian as well. Her first 2 pieces are amazing. I can't wait to hear her 3rd one when she starts to name a few more names here in Springfield. It will be amazing. I'd also like to thank Jack Windsor from Ohio Press Network, who is still on the job reporting about things in Springfield. I would also like to thank John Lauterbach from Epic Times, who is also producing excellent investigative pieces. I would also like to thank Christopher James Anderson, who has dug up a lot of very interesting, how shall I say it, videos that has given me some insight as to what has been going on here in Springfield. I'd also like to give a PSA about how to help the people in North Carolina and in the mountains. Do not give any money to any national organization. They will waste your money. The best ones to give to, from my research, are Samaritan's Purse, with Franklin Graham, Grindstone Ministries, and Guns and Gadgets. I'd like to ask a couple of questions. I only have a couple. I'm going to ask this one more time, and I want an answer. Who wrote the copy for the facts on immigration, especially the question about challenges the city faces, referring to those of us here in the audience as racist and intolerant? I want to know that person's name now.
Thank you, Dan. Lisa Hayes, 1503 Maiden Lane.
Hello, good evening. I haven't spoke for a few weeks. I've been doing a lot of listening. And I had sent a thing to a friend of mine who put a document on my page about this other city who looks at our city as being racist, looks at our city as not being able to help one another. I got to tell you, I'm not a bit racist. You know, I don't have hate in my heart. I have not ever had hate in my heart. And I too agree with Diana about the Haitians are victims too. We're victims, and so are the Haitians. I could not imagine going to another country where I couldn't even speak the language and be thrown into there, taken to jobs, because that's what we've done. We've taken them to jobs that you say we wouldn't work. I don't think any of us were ever asked, honestly. I know I wasn't. I was a machinist for 10 years. I tried to get a machinist job today. It's like because they look at my age that I wouldn't be able to do that job. I got to tell you, I can still machine. I can still machine at 64 years old. The other thing is, I sent to this friend of mine, I'm going to try to read it to you. Okay, my 20-year-old granddaughter, which some of you will remember, was not able to get Medicaid for 4 months. We were $300 out of pocket. And the reason is because we were taking care of everybody else that was coming into our city, that we didn't have time to look at the citizens that were already here, citizens that work 2 full-time jobs, not just one. She works 2 full-time jobs, and she's now 6 months pregnant and still working those 2 full-time jobs. Okay? So Social Security, I can get into Social Security forever. I just now had to figure out what day of the week is going to be good for me to go down there and talk to them about retiring. So I sent this to her. I don't have an ounce of hate in me. Definitely not a racist. Definitely not a racist. And honestly, I get tired of people looking at me like that because, racism can go both ways. It really can. And that's something I think we all need to take a look at. Not all Haitian people are like what I have described, because I described to her a couple incidents that happened to me in the grocery store where I was blocked from going down an aisle, to my 20-year-old granddaughter while she was standing in Job and Family Services trying to get her paperwork scanned. She had one Haitian male in front of her. He got closer to her, and the other Haitian male behind her, and they kind of sandwiched. But I don't identify each Haitian in that manner. I don't have that kind of stuff in my heart. But yes, incidents are happening. And not only are they happening to the Haitians or to us, but they're also happening to the Haitians. I believe that. I believe that with everything I got. You don't take a bunch of people and cram them into one
Lisa,
little
your
city
time's up. Thank
and
you
expect them all to get along.
If you would take a seat, we'll have Catalina Remusat come up, please. 1333 St. Paris Pike.
Good evening. My name is Catalina Jamusa. Commissioners, you know I have been heavily involved in this community for the last 6 years. I'm sure you also know that Springfield has an outstanding dropout recovery high school called Cliff Park. Cliff Park has an incredible staff. They have incredible students. And they have won awards for their incredible work. A couple years ago, I won an award for my work as well. I was the honored recipient of the City of Springfield's MLK Day Outstanding Minority Business Award. That was for a public relations company, which is now dissolved and become a community relations business. I am here tonight to share with you our first community event will take place next month. You may recall the Your Story project that took over downtown in the year 2020. Well, Catalyst was able to bring together the Your Story project, the Springfield Museum of Art, and Cliff Park High School to shine a light on our kids doing everything that they can to achieve their high school diploma. I've been watching these meetings, and I've heard people say that they want to support our youth. They want a lot of things that'll take a lot of time, but I want you to know that a lot of time has gone into this. 1.5 years, in fact. So if people want to do something to support our youth, I encourage them to attend this exhibit. Opening night is Friday, November 8th from 5:30 to 7, and it will be open until the end of the year. This is an opportunity for our city to see our teens in a better light, and an opportunity for us, for all of us, to be a little bit better to each other. Thank you.
Amanda Richardson, 1810 Charles Street.
My name's Amanda Richardson. I was born in Springfield and have lived here for most of my life. I'm here today to address all the Fox News grandmas and grandpas that want to come to the city commission meetings and yell at clouds. There are about 136,000 people who live in Clark County. This room holds just over 100. You don't speak for everyone, and it's kind of insulting that you present yourself that way. I'd be willing to bet the majority of residents of both Springfield and Clark County don't care about the Haitian immigrants in Springfield. They're too busy going to their jobs, paying their bills, and taking care of their kids. It doesn't affect them. But since some of you want to hold yourselves out there as the authorities on how people feel in Springfield, then I'm here to push back and say, no, you're not. You don't speak for me, and I don't speak for anyone else but myself. But if we want to make it a regular Tuesday night date night every 2 weeks, I'm game. Second, when you come down here to complain to our city government about your feelings, you're telling on yourself. You're telling the entire community that as an adult, you can't handle your own emotions and have to come to these meetings to yell at our city government because you said something racist in person or on Facebook or wherever else, and someone called you racist in response. If you need somewhere to talk about your feelings, That's what therapy is for. And let me be really clear about your feelings. No one cares. To be honest, I don't want my city government to be so concerned with a few chronic complainers' feelings that they stop doing the work they need to do. The adults will be over here solving problems. That includes discussing racism. If it hurts your feelings that you found a reference to racism in a slideshow on a county website, which this is the city of Springfield government and not the county, but okay, that's your problem to deal with. Stop trying to make the entire world about you. Speaking of the county, some of you need to stop in at our wonderful Clark County Public Library and educate yourselves on how our government works. When you come to the City of Springfield Commission meetings to complain about something Clark County did or didn't do, you're essentially calling a plumber to complain that your landscaper didn't show up last Wednesday to mow your lawn. What do you expect the plumbing company to do about your landscaping? This is the same thing you're doing when you complain to the city government about county offices. If you have issues with the county, I suggest you contact them. Stop wasting our time here at the city government offices. Finally, if you're mad about being called a racist, stop saying racist things. And you can stop with the, I don't hate all black people, just this specific group of black people. Like that makes a difference. Call it whatever you want. Racism, discrimination, prejudice, bigotry, it's still wrong. You're still a garbage person morally. While you quibble over your hurt feelings, I'll be over here doing the actual work to help Springfield by participating in a great American tradition, fighting against Nazis. Thank you.
Bill Monaghan, 1323 Broadway.
Hey, this is Bill Monaghan at 1323 Broadway Street. I was hoping this week we could get back to answering some questions that came up last week that didn't get addressed. For instance, I asked, and I know Mark Edwards asked, and I think Isaac Eldridge asked, among other people, is like, we've heard, and now I found out it's from the police chief of Tremont City, a verification of what we understood, that migrant drivers are being allowed to walk away without being cited from accidents that they've caused, or drive away from accidents they caused. And we were wondering if that was to protect their temporary protected status. Also, Mark has brought up several times housing code violations where too many people are packed into individual houses, and we've never heard anything about that. I'd like that addressed. Diane has brought up, in my first meeting, I brought up, it'd be nice, I know your allies like to paint all our concerns as racist, but most of the concerns I see are about affordable housing, about traffic safety, about public health. So I would like a citizen panel, that would have access to information, not just our 3 minutes here, but actually people to come to you with the concerns we have so that they can be addressed. Instead, we get called names, and we would like that addressed. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Annette Stanley, 3454 Full Cream Road. Thank you.
Good evening. I just came to make an announcement. And we don't want any recognition for this. This is not why we brought it to you guys tonight. But driving through the west end of Springfield the other night, we saw so many homeless people, and it's getting colder. So I put a thing out on Facebook, and I wanted to announce it here tonight that we're taking a donation for blankets, socks, gloves, whatever they need to stay warm. Excuse me. So I think what we're going to do to make it easier is we're going to be in Walmart parking lot on Bechtel Avenue this Saturday. I think we're going to do it from like 2 to 3. So we'll be down there with a sign, big red Chevy truck, and a red, big sign that will say donation or something to let you know who we are. So if anybody would like to donate anything for our homeless people in Springfield, our plan is to distribute those items ourselves. We're just going to go out in the community and start, distributing.
Diane, please. Anything else?
No, thank you.
Thank you for doing that.
Thank you.
Jessica Schaefer, 511 North Claremont, 2 to 3. Yeah, we'll announce that again. Thank you.
Hello.
So I came here 2 weeks ago to speak, and I said I was going to be a target, so guess what? I was. It was a pleasure to see that I got so deeply under the skin of the cosplaying neo-Nazis that they decided to attempt to feel important by targeting our town and putting the video of me speaking here on their master race fellatio plan that they have. So it's so scary. Their ignorance is only surpassed by their pathetic nature. It must really suck to know the only people you identify with are losers whose system lasted less time than the Reading Rainbow was on the air. It must really suck to also know that little old me isn't afraid of y'all. And man, it really sucks when people don't wilt and cower, because I know exactly who those pathetic neo-Nazis are. I know that they like to play dress up in their little costumes, and they like to cowardly attempt to target people online. That's not all they got going for them. That's really it. And I told them last time, and I'll tell them again, I'm not afraid of y'all. And for those of you in the community who are willingly or unwillingly being pawns of them, I would recommend you check who's backing your play and who is walking with you. Because whether you can say, I'm not racist, doesn't really matter when you have Nazis walking with you. It's as simple as that. I said this 2 weeks ago, and I'll say it again. For those of you guys in the community around here who actually want to stand up to this and refuse to give in to hate and refuse to be afraid of immature little brats who march around with weapons and a loser flag and a failed attempt to compensate for what we all know they're really missing, join me in laughing at and mocking these sad little sacks for the creepy weirdos that they are, and that they let them know that they are not welcome in our town. Laughter and derision are the only emotions and energy that they deserve. We are done being held hostage with the vocal minority attempting to divide us and make us hate each other. It is as simple as that. When you see them, mock them, laugh at them, take pictures of them, and call them pathetic, because they are.
West Fabian, 2121 Olympic Street.
There's an ancient philosopher lived long ago who said that the only constant is change. We face changes throughout our lives. The question is, how will we work through the changes that come? That happens for us personally and physically, but it happens socially, it happens politically, it happens all kinds of ways. Often contending with change is certainly not easy. So here we are, contending with change. In the past years, our community has been changing. In decline, it has been changing. Our situation in recent years, due to a changing economy, cooperative efforts of many, have opened the door to growth in recent years. Now, instead of change that was steady decline, we've had major population growth and the attending economic benefits. Nonetheless, we have obviously had serious consequences to deal with in the face of all that. The reactions, as we know, have led to many unfortunate outcomes. What I have observed is that our new neighbors, the Haitians, are working to respond to this reality as many others in our community have been doing. We've received encouragement from across our country and other parts of the world. It will take patience, kindness, listening, but together we can move to what is better for us all in these changing times. My thanks to you, commissioners, and to all of those who are doing good things to encourage the change and growth that we are realizing. Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, we will have comments from commissioners. I will just simply say that we have worked on the questions that have been handed to us throughout these meetings. I know that the city manager and his staff are working to get a lot of those answers. I also want to thank the people over the last month that have reached out across the nation, around the world, offering just support and concern for our city. And the good has outweighed the bad in those efforts, and I just really appreciate that. I'd also like to thank our local law enforcement for the time and effort they've put in to protect our city, protect the schools, and just taking extra care and caution of that, and I appreciate that. I'll go ahead and open up to commissioners. Commissioner Tackett, Commissioner, go ahead.
I was wondering, Heck, if I saw Mr. Wilson, Andy Wilson, in the audience tonight, if we might have some update of information from Mr. Wilson or from you.
Yeah, I'll have that as part of the comment section for staff comment. But yes,
Okay.
we will definitely have Andy present the data from the Ohio State Highway Patrol at the start of the staff question and answer session.
Yeah, because part of my concern is one of the issues that we've uncovered here, and I will be anxious to hear your data, is the impact that the state decision to do away with driver education in the public schools has had on this state. Some of you will recall that we used to have driver education in the public schools. That is no longer the case. It wasn't until this weekend that I found out that you used to have it, because I came here in 2009 and driver ed was never part of public education then. So I'm wondering, I have some real concerns that I would like to suggest we may need to look at, but I thought it was an issue that we've seen it sort of bubbled up as part of this whole thing. Thank you.
I believe the lady left that was putting together the donations for the homeless. I didn't catch, was it Tuttle or was it
Bechtel?
Bechtel,
Bechtel,
okay,
2 to
thank you.
3.
Thank you. I also want to mention that I appreciate the ongoing dedication of the Springfield Police Department, especially during recent months. Their efforts are truly valued. Furthermore, I acknowledge and thank our citizens for their continued engagement and feedback, demonstrating genuine care for our city. Thank you, guys.
I did want to say thank you so much, Melanie. I have not had that opportunity, but I definitely appreciate your reminder. And when I go, I've got your number written down here from your comment card. Do you mind if I text you and let you know? Okay. Oh, cool. So you want to go together? I was just saying I'll text you and let you know that I went, but I am down for that. Thank you so much. Thank you. Spirit fingers. Thank you. We'll make a date.
Yes, Commission, thank you. So I'll start first with the question that Commissioner Estrop and I know others are interested in, and I'll ask if our Director of Public Safety for the state of Ohio can give us an update on the traffic enforcement that's being assisted with by his agency in the state of Ohio, and give us some data points.
Thank you, Mayor Rue and members of the commission. It's an honor standing before you today and just kind of give you an update. I want to start with the fact that last Friday night, part of my staff and I did a ride-along with your police, and being in the car with your police, watching them bounce from call to call to call, and watching on your computer, on the computer-assisted dispatch, computer-aided dispatch, the calls that were stacked up. It really hit home for me the importance of the fact that we're able to assist you just with traffic enforcement, because look, you're just too busy dealing with the actual call volume of domestic violence and all the crime that you have. As a matter of fact, the very first call that I went out on, your officers had arrested somebody who had shot someone the night before. So their ability to rapidly respond to those types of crimes, we're able to relieve some of the pressure to allow them to do that. So we're happy to assist. The other thing too is I looked at a map of where we've been doing this enforcement action. So the Highway Patrol's been in the city since September 11th, doing our enforcement action. And we said from the get-go that we wanted it to be data-driven. We didn't want to just blanket the city. We didn't want to over-police your city. We really kind of wanted to focus on the areas that were where you were experiencing crashes and where you had seen extreme traffic behavior, fast driving, reckless driving, that kind of stuff. So I actually looked at a map of where our citations have been to the data that I'm about to give you. And it was very interesting to me. It is pretty much right north and south, all the way from Home Road, all the way down to Leffels Lane. Limestone is where we've done the majority of the enforcement. And then going from west to east, east to west, it's Main Street and High Street. We've done some Leffels Lane, some Home Road up north. But we've done a pretty good job of staying out of the neighborhoods. And so I want you to know that, again, we're not just saturating the neighborhoods. We're not focusing on typical areas. It is a very specific traffic enforcement. It also it's colorblind, it's race neutral. We are focusing solely on driver behavior. That's all we're looking at. So, since we've been in the city on September 11th, we've had 744 stops. Out of that 744 stops, 333 were non-enforcement action. So that could be a car's pulled over to the side of the road, we stop to check on it. Out of those 333 non-enforcement actions, 200 warnings were given. So a non-enforcement also includes a warning. Out of those 744 violations, stops, 411 resulted in violations. That's a variety of things. We've done extreme speed, reckless driving, distracted driving, seatbelt violations, all of the above along those corridors we've talked about. Last time I was here, I gave you preliminary statistics on the crashes that we have responded to. When I talked last time, I told you we had responded to 33 crashes. That was actually for the county. That was countywide. So for the city, the Highway Patrol, and I'm not speaking for the Springfield Police Division crashes, the Highway Patrol since September 11th has responded to 18 crashes. That's what we've investigated in the city. So that's our information with respect to the stops, the number of stops that we've made. I want to talk a little bit about driver's education. Dr. Estrop, you nailed it. You absolutely nailed it. It's actually a little deeper than that, because in Ohio, if you're over the age of 18, you don't even have to take driver's ed. So what we have is we have a lot of kids who just kind of wait it out, don't go through driver's ed for lots of reasons, and then take the test with no driver's education. I'm not even talking about the patient issue right now. I'm talking about just driving safety across the board. Again, back in the day, you could get it in high school. We think that's a great idea. And as a matter of fact, the governor in his last budget put a bunch of money, they're called code grants. That is to increase the capacity to do driver's education. Some of those code grants went to school districts. So your vocational school here got one of our code grants so that they could start a driver's school for kids from out the county, go through the vocational school. One of the things we're looking at, the governor's passionate about improving the way we do driver's education. And he said it himself. He said, look, he and Mrs. DeWine, when they were kids, I think their gym teacher taught them driver's ed. He thinks that is a good model. We're looking at it. Right now, it's pretty cost prohibitive because we just don't have the infrastructure anymore. We don't have the cars with the extra brake and all of that kind of stuff. But I think piece by piece, you're going to see us start to make moves to get it into the school districts, because we think that's the best way to do it. Also, we want it to be available as part of the curriculum. We'd want it to be a kind of a elective class that kids could take, but we would certainly want them to be able to take for free or very reduced cost. The governor, again, as part of his budget, I think I talked about this last time, did grants called Drive to Succeed, where kids who can't afford, who otherwise wouldn't be able to afford to pay for driver's ed, can get a scholarship to help. And I know Clark County was a recipient of our Drive to Succeed grant. So I see a hand there.
You're making very, very many good points. But I also, Mr. Wilson, wanted to say thank you for all you've done to help Clark County and this city. And please express our thanks to the governor for his continuing interest and support. It seems to me that now that we no longer have driver education in this state, someone under 18. If they're going to drive, if they can't afford it, they're going to drive illegally, which could impact insurance costs, could impact juvenile court, could impact a number of things. So this is not just a one-dimensional problem. Certainly it's a public safety problem, but it seems to me it's also an educational problem, the cost you mentioned, and may well be an insurance problem, because if we have drivers who are driving around our communities who haven't been taught to drive properly and obey the rules of the road, then I'm sure our insurance costs in the state have risen as a result of all the accidents. So you think about this. We did away with driver education and hope that our drivers would be good drivers. I think it may be time, and this was my question in specific, is it time that we start talking to some of our legislators about the need to look at this whole issue of driver education in terms of, do we need it back in the public schools in some form, even if it's phased in? At least the students, and if we've got adult classes, can get education from a source that's knowledgeable. And for a lot of our kids, I read in the News Sun, $500 to $600 for driver lessons. Many families can't come close to affording that. Am I seeing this through a lens that makes some sense or not?
You're exactly right. The only thing that I would say is we haven't done away with driver's education. What we did is we privatized it. The state privatized it.
Yes.
And when they did that, it radically altered the model. It radically altered accessibility. It radically altered capacity. So yes, there is a problem. It's not affordable. And for anybody who has a kid that has tried to drive lately or learned to drive lately, and it takes a long time to get them into the instructor. So that the capacity just isn't there. So we're working very hard. The governor's very passionate. And the governor and Mrs. DeWine have a very personal connection to this issue when it comes to driver safety. And, we actually sat down in August with the insurance industry. All the CEOs from the major insurance companies came and sat down, and we talked about, hey, look, it's time to actually go to the General Assembly and alter the way we do driver's education in the state. Because what we're doing, we know the 18 to 24-year-old age group, those are our most dangerous. There's no doubt about it for a lot of reasons. But we also know that the ones who haven't had driver's education are more dangerous out on the road as well. So, yes, we need to improve our adult driver's education. We're working with the city to do a lot of stuff in that space. A lot of the nonprofits, we're working in that area. But yeah, the governor wants to radically alter the way we do driver's education across. Any other?
Well, if there's something we can do to help, please let us know. I will contact some of our area legislators.
Thank you. And Commission, just so you know, the map that Andy is referring to and stuff, we can place on the website so people can kind of see that, the data points there. So we'll have it on our website at www.springfieldohio.gov so that if individuals want to refer to that, they can. So thank you, Andy.
Thanks for being here.
So as we move down through the questions, first one, Melissa specifically, I'll have staff in our 5-minute break. I'll ask Allison if she can pop over to you on the victim's advocate number and talk about the four-wheeler. So if you just do that during the break, that would be great. One of the questions related to why side streets not being repaired, I will state, we have, since the levy was passed by our citizens back in 2017, we have begun our neighborhood streets paving program again. There was a 9-year hiatus where we did not have the funds to pave our neighborhood streets. So we certainly got way behind. We recognize that. And we have spent well north of the $2 million commitment that we had for neighborhood street paving. So this doesn't talk about the primary arterials and stuff. This is truly neighborhood streets that we've been investing over $2 million in, and we've paved over 100 of those just since that levy passed in 2017. Are we anywhere close? No, we have a lot more to go, but that's what happens when you go 9 years without being able to do it. There was also the question as it related to potholes And if you see a pothole, don't assume that we know about it or see it because we're driving a lot of the streets. So make sure, call 937-525-5800. That's our service department. If you call them and tell them about a pothole, I can guarantee it will get filled. We are working on bringing back our report a concern type feature to our website to make it even easier so that you can go on there and report that. But again, right now, 937-525-5800. And then the same individual brought up about money from the state. I want to highlight that so far the money that's been brought to our community from the state, part of it was related to health care. So went through the health department and helped set up a mobile clinic and is working to set up a more permanent health clinic for everyone to be able to help with screenings and so forth. And then also to the schools. So money was received by the schools to help with translation services specifically. We have not received any specific dollars for law enforcement or any other city services or expenses that we've incurred from the state or the federal at this moment. That doesn't mean that we're not asking for those dollars. We have continued to ask at the state and federal level for assistance for the costs that we've incurred and for additional support so that we can make sure that we have the resources necessary for our community. So we continue to do that.
There was $75,000 raised by the Ohio Mayor's Alliance and their associates, so that's something that they're going to, I'm sure we'll be voting to receive that in
At
the
some
coming
later
months, but
point.
that's confirmed, that minimum amount is confirmed, and we appreciate their effort to do that.
Yeah, and that's not to say we've been working with our legislators at the state and federal level, actively working with them to try to secure as many funds as possible specifically to our community to help with law enforcement and so forth. There was a lot of broad context around houses and the landlords and so forth. And so, our code enforcement division inspects, so when those addresses are provided to us, we go out there and we look for signs of, are there signs that there are multiple people beyond what should be living in a home, living there. We investigate all those addresses. So again, if you have any of those addresses, please let us know that. Our code enforcement officers go out there. If there are signs that legally allow us, because code enforcement officers, we just can't force entry into a home, then we can work with our other departments and divisions to be able to actually go in and make sure that there's safe and sanitary conditions in the home itself, whether that's working with the health department, the fire rescue division, police division, so on and so forth.
Brian, I think it's important to note, that we don't want these homes filled with folks illegally. It's dangerous. Our firefighters, our safety force folks go into places to help care for people. And if they are in a situation where they are completely unsafe, it's disastrous. I know that's why there's been a lot of concern brought up here, but we do not want this to happen as a city. So we definitely check addresses. Nobody is getting an address and ignoring the complaint at all. I know a lot of us know our different code enforcement officers. They care. They're not here just, punching clock and leaving. They are very active during the day. Could we use several more? I'm sure we could. But they're very active. So this is not something we're just not paying attention to. We are paying attention to it.
Yes. One of the questions relative was about the Haitian Community Center and specifically Viles. I can say I've sat down with Viles and talked to him several times about helping work towards assimilation and those types of things. I'd be glad to help set up a meeting too for both parties and myself again. So just to talk with them. I do know they're working on establishing some type of interfaith type group as well to help assist with the challenges that are being faced. And then as far as FEMA dollars are concerned, we actually specifically asked about that program that was mentioned. Under the current program that the Haitian immigrants are coming in, we are not eligible to receive any dollars, or assistance from FEMA specifically for the Haitian immigrants coming.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. As far as jobs, do we have 20 to 30,000 jobs? I'll say, do we have 20 to 30,000 new jobs? No. We have created a lot of new jobs in our community, though, with Silfex, Gabe's, Topre, our existing employers like McGregor Metal, and I can name list after list of employers that have created new jobs, and we have added a lot of jobs. I will say our job market's become saturated, where you see people are looking outside into other communities, whether that is our Haitian community members or others that are looking outside now because our market has saturated to a degree. But there are available jobs, and that's a big piece. Available jobs and affordable housing was a piece of that. As far as the number, I know that's been talked about, the 15 to 20,000. Again, in my conversation with Viles, I asked him, you know, from your thoughts, your opinion, what do you think the population is right now? And he believes it's right around 15,000 Haitians in our community. And that was from Viles. Making sure that I'm catching all of them.
Mandatory strength. Ma'am, it's kind of, we're just not going back and forth, so if it's okay, if you would, we'd love to see you next time in the next meeting. So we'll just let the answers happen. I want you to speak to the strength also, what Mike Lowe brought up.
Yes, so a couple things, there were multiple points.
Can I have just
Yeah.
a second? And then I'll also be reaching out to you. So if you have any other questions, okay?
Yeah, sure. It's just in the form.
Sure.
So there were several questions brought up as it related to a letter. So first, I want to talk about our strength, authorized strength, and where we're at today. So yes, we are at 119 in terms of number of officers that we have. So our charter back in the 90s was when a levy was approved by the voters, a special property tax levy, specifically for police. That added and put a charter minimum of 124. So we're sitting at 119 currently today. That is not for lack of trying to hire officers. If we were just sitting on our hands and not actively trying to hire officers, okay. But we are actively, since January of 2022, we have had 9 separate civil service processes to try to hire and get enough officers. This is not just something that Springfield, Ohio is facing. I understand we have the charter minimum of 124, but we are actively and have been actively trying to get our numbers up. As far as the additional 6, so above the 124, in our levy that we passed in 2017, one of our promises was to work to get to 130 to have a Safe Streets Task Force. Certainly, we're not at that 130. We want to be. Our budget is authorized strength at 130, but that's a little different than the charter minimum that you see of the 124. As far as Jill, Allen, if you could just answer, the question was, did you receive a letter today about the number of police officers on the force?
I did receive a letter, yes.
So to answer that question, yes. And then Ms. Evanston, could you speak to the funds that come in from that property tax levy? Are they going to a specific fund?
Just a second.
Yeah.
So if we were not holding civil service exams for the intent purpose of hiring law enforcement, actively advertising for this, then somebody could have a legitimate complaint against the city of Springfield. But because we're actively doing this probably isn't a valid complaint because we would like to be at mandated strength.
Yes, we are actively trying to get to mandated
So just want to
strength
clarify
and
as a
above.
citizen, it's like it was passed. We'd like to be at that strength. We're making every effort to do that. And we're hiring every eligible person we can that passes all the accurate tests, right?
Yeah, that passes it. And I will say again, we're not going to sacrifice our quality over quantity.
Sure.
We're making sure we are hiring quality officers. So again, a reason why we've held 9 different civil service processes to make sure that we can hire quality officers to serve our community. But as far as the special fund being established,
Yes, so Commissioners, just speaking to the financial piece for the special police levy, when we are not paying those salaries for those additional officers, we are paying that in overtime. So we would certainly like to hire those officers to reduce that overtime cost and the cost on our most valuable resource, which is our people having to work long hours. So the special police levy fund generates roughly $3 million annually in property tax revenue for those additional officers. The city's police division operates with roughly a $19 million budget each year. And each year we are having to subsidize that special police levy fund with general fund income tax dollars to support that fund. That does not include the additional $1 million annually or more that we are spending on capital improvements within our police division such as police cruisers and bulletproof vests. In total, the city's general fund budget is $58 million. 56% of that is used on public safety, is allocated toward public safety. So again, reflecting the city's commitment to ensuring public safety, even when we have limited resources in that special police levy fund as well.
Next, we heard about, so whose idea was Haitian Flag Day? So I know a community group of Haitian leaders had approached former mayor, Mr. Copeland, about having a Haitian Flag Day at City Hall. And so there was a Flag Day held. As far as nonprofits that were coordinated with, I'm not aware of specific nonprofits that were coordinated with for the Flag Day. As far as the event that was held at Veterans Park, again, that was a Haitian community group that was established that went down or had the thing at Veterans Park. I would have to ask Leanne Castillo from Clark County Park District on the rental cost. They handle all of that, not the city of Springfield. So I will ask that question of Leanne and have that answer for you. And then rent we receive come from any Haitian group or nonprofit. I'm not sure specifically of that, but I will follow up with you to see what your specific question on rent, outside of, again, checking with what the Veterans Park rental was. And then as far as the copy of facts on immigration, especially the questions about the challenges the city faces and the use of words racist and intolerant. So that FAQ section on our website was compiled by utilizing various data points and presentations that have been presented, whether at a commission meeting or other group meetings. I can say the specific thing that talked about the challenges the city faced came from the presentation that the health commissioner provided to us at a city commission meeting and talked about the various challenges of the immigration issue. And then we've had several broader statements or comments or questions about homelessness and what we're doing that. I would like if Logan Cobbs, our community development director, can give an update on what community development and our community partners are looking at and working through on the homelessness issue.
Sir, thank you, Brian. Mayor Rue, City Commission, good evening. My name is Logan Cobbs, Director of Community Development. I want to take the opportunity to address an issue that profoundly impacts our community, homelessness. We hear the community's concerns and fully understand the urgent need for action. Our commitment to supporting one of the most vulnerable populations among us is unwavering. In recent weeks, we have actively engaged in small group discussions and attended meetings with direct service providers, collaborating closely with our safety services to gain a comprehensive understanding of the challenges faced on the ground. These conversations have reinforced our dedication to finding effective solutions as winter quickly approaches. When meeting with direct service providers, many have voiced the desperate need for collaboration, highlighting potential grant opportunities, innovative programs, and the importance of HUD's continuum of care model. Together, we must address the pressing housing needs and refine our community's intake processes. As winter draws near, our immediate priority is to identify short-term solutions to ensure the safety and well-being of those currently unhoused. However, we are equally as committed to addressing the structural issues that contribute to this crisis. It is essential that we adopt a forward-thinking approach that prioritizes the development of affordable housing, and I did hear many people mention that tonight, enhanced access to mental health and substance abuse services, and increasing the number of landlords that accept housing choice vouchers, just to name a few. So in the short term, next week, my department, in collaboration with Fire and PD, will conduct a current census count of our homeless population. We have extended invitations to the Nehemiah Foundation, Sheltered Inc., and the Clark County Combined Health District to ensure that we have a comprehensive assessment. While our department has proposed a range of potential solutions, understanding the most up-to-date numbers is paramount to our efforts. We acknowledge that there is no one-size-fits-all solution to the challenges faced by our homeless population this winter. Therefore, we have developed a multifaceted approach that considers the diverse needs of community individuals currently on the wait list, those living in encampments, those living in their vehicles, and those who choose to remain outdoors this winter. So together we can foster a compassionate and meaningful response to this pressing issue. We appreciate your continued support and collaboration as we work towards solutions that honor the dignity of all members of our community. So I stand by for any questions you may have.
So do you want to speak to any of the emergency shelters that are in place already, knowing that it's going to drop below 30 here in a couple of days, below 40? There's a collaboration of a network of, is it churches or is it nonprofits that are working together to be able to have warming shelter?
So we would stand up a warming shelter when temperatures drop below 20 degrees, and that's in collaboration with the Nehemiah Foundation. But many of our church partners have said that they'd really be willing to step up in a meaningful way if, a proposal was presented.
Logan, I would like to be a part of that assessment. It's very important that we get on this, and I would love to go out next week as well. Thank you.
And then there was a question related as far as migrant drivers not being cited and do we let them drive away? So the question last meeting, and I think Mr. Monahan left, but was about TPS status. So it does talk about 2 misdemeanors, and that can impact or affect TPS status. We've had meetings with Department of Homeland Security, specifically ICE, about that. I don't know that the federal government would be enforcing that, but I want to say that we enforce our driving laws universally. A lot of the questions has been around towing and towing of vehicles of unlicensed drivers and so forth. And so thanks to Chief Elliott, she prepared a nice memo for me outlining the towing procedures and how officers make the assessment and determination of whether a vehicle can be towed or not. And I will have that placed on the website as well, so individuals can go on there and read through the various policies and how towing is determined on vehicles, because it's not a cut and dry scenario. There's a lot of factors that go in on whether we can properly tow or not. And so I will post that on the website tomorrow as well.
Thank you. Before we have a break, there was a emergency proclamation that was signed back on September 15th. I need to read that into our minutes tonight, and I'm going to basically highlight a few areas. So this was an executive order that was signed back on September 15th, whereas the city of Springfield recently experienced an increased focus attention due to the current state of heightened media coverage and national focus. As a result of the increased focus, the city employees and residents have been subjected to credible threats of harm, thereby creating an immediate danger and safety for well-being of our community and city employees. And also Article 2, Section 7 of our charter in the city states that the mayor can and shall take command of the police and govern the city in proclamation during times of public danger or emergency. And the mayor shall also be the sole determiner of what constitutes public danger or emergency. And the mayor is therefore authorized to proclaim an existence of a state of emergency in the city. Point of note, we did this back during COVID when we were under state of emergency. Former Mayor Warren Copeland had a proclamation. I think we also had a proclamation for homelessness as a state of emergency at one point during the last several years as well. And so we do this in order to, according to Section 1, is all purchasing and contracting requirements as stated in the Ohio Revised Code in the City of Springfield ordinances are hereby suspended during this period of emergency for those city divisions or departments participating in efforts specifically related to addressing security threats under this proclamation. These security threats include, but are not limited to, the acts of terrorism, civil unrest, targeted violence, cyber attacks, or any other activities that pose an immediate risk or safety or security of the well-being or public safety of the employees of the city of Springfield, Ohio. And this suspension is to ensure the rapid procurement of necessary resources, equipment, or services required to prevent, mitigate, or respond to such threats in order to protect the health and safety or welfare of the citizens of the city of Springfield and its employees. So this proclamation shall remain in effect until terminated. Modifications or extensions of this proclamation can be made as necessary. Now, we see this probably lasting until we'll review this proclamation around the first week of November, to where we anticipate all things being nice and quiet. We'll probably eliminate this emergency proclamation. But we needed to read that and put that into our minutes tonight. So we will go ahead and take a 5-minute break and then begin with our legislative portion of the meeting. Thank you for being here. legislative portion of our meeting. We're beginning reading with first readings. First reading ordinances, please.
Amending the zoning map of Springfield, Ohio by rezoning 31.48 acres located along East National Road, Springfield, Ohio, from RPD Research and Development Park District to PD Planned Development District, and adopting the regulations for the Melody Parks Planned Development District being 409.3 acres along National Road. Authorizing the purchase of one 2024 Ford F-550 with a upfitting from Rush Truck Centers for an amount not to exceed $133,670 through Sourcewell pursuant to the Sourcewell Contract Purchasing Cooperative Program in accordance with the provisions of Section 9.48 of the Ohio Revised Code. Authorizing the city manager to enter into a mutual termination amendment number 2 to the Airport Vegetation Management Agreement 2021 to 2025 with Jeffrey A. Goodbar.
Is there comments from commissioners on first readings? Is there comments from the audience on first readings only? If you'd like to go to the mic, Mike, please.
I would like to know about 260-24. What department's that truck going for? What is it being used for? I'd like to know more information about it.
Yes, I'll have Chris Moore, our service director, to speak to that.
This truck is for our water distribution crews. It will be used as a water service run truck. It will be replacing a 2013 that is currently hit the end of its useful life.
Thank you. Okay, clerk will proceed with second readings.
Amending the zoning map of Springfield, Ohio by rezoning .144 acre at 1335 North Limestone Street, Springfield, Ohio, from CO1 Commercial Office District to RS8 Medium Density Multifamily Residence District.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Other comments from commissioners? From the audience? Clerk, call the roll.
Mrs. Brown?
Yes.
Dr. Estrop?
Yes.
Mrs. Houston?
Yes.
Mrs. Tackett?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Authorizing the city manager to enter into amendment number 4 to the subrecipient funding agreement with Habitat for Humanity of Greater Dayton to extend the period of performance to December 31, 2024, and confirming and approving related services provided from July 1st, 2024 to the passage of this ordinance.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Are there comments from commissioners? From the audience? Go to the mic. Thank you, Mike.
I want to know how much money that involves.
City manager.
Yes, I'll have our community development director speak to this. This is our former emergency repair program, which is now our health and safety repair program, the NHP and Habitat.
Correct. So this is $75,000 of CDBG funds. And again, these funds would just be extended through the end of the year, and they have about $20,000 left to extend and plenty of work to do in the community.
You want to explain CBDG funds? Just what is that acronym for the public?
That's our community development block grant. We're an entitlement community, so we are entitled to these funds from the federal government.
Thank you. You can go back to the mic and ask another question.
Okay, the CDBG funds, when are the neighborhoods going to get their money from that? You keep taking all these funds from the neighborhoods, and the neighborhoods basically don't get anything hardly anymore. For years and years, we had lots of money that we could get projects done in our Pacific neighborhood. So when are we getting our money?
Logan?
Mr. Lowe, I'm not really sure what specific program you're talking about. $300. Oh, for the So we are looking to repurpose that program, if you will, I believe. We have sent out correspondence to our neighborhood partners, essentially saying that we're going to rework the way that we distribute funds for the community beautification program.
Thank you. No other comments? Clerk, call the roll.
Mrs. Tackett? Yes. Mrs. Houston?
Yes.
Dr. Estrop?
Yes.
Mrs. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Confirming and approving the acceptance of a 2024-2025 Selective Traffic Enforcement Program grant in an amount up to $27,547.19, and a 2024-2025 Impaired Driving Enforcement Program grant in an amount up to $26,047.19 from the Ohio Department of Public Safety, Governor's Highway Safety Office, to reimburse salaries and certain fringe benefits of officers assigned to special overtime projects, authorizing the city manager, finance director, law director, and chief of police to perform all acts and execute all documents they consider necessary to fulfill the city's obligations under said grants and to comply with all relevant local, state, and federal legal requirements.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Katie or Brian, could you explain this and what's this going to? Is this?
Yeah, so this is an annual program or
Annual.
grant that
Thank
we
you.
receive. And just as it says, it's selective traffic enforcement program, so covers overtime expenses as it relates to selective or data-driven traffic enforcement in the community, as well as the impaired driving enforcement program, so OVI, checkpoints and so forth that you see where we partner with other organizations, and that helps cover, again, the overtime expenses for running those specific data-driven traffic enforcement programs.
Nothing to do with current events. Want to just
No,
clarify
this is
that.
an annual
Thank you.
program that we typically receive money from.
Thank you. Comments from the audience? Clerk, call the roll.
Mrs. Houston?
Yes.
Mrs. Tackett?
Yes.
Mrs. Brown?
Yes.
Dr. Estrop?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Confirming and approving applying for and accepting the 2024 Burn Justice Assistance Grant Program Award to provide funding in the amount of $51,183 to purchase various safety technology equipment, and confirming and approving an interlocal agreement between the city and the Board of Clark County Commissioners of Clark County, Ohio, for an amount not to exceed $25,591 in connection with the 2024 Burn Justice Assistance Grant.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Other comments from commissioners? Dr. Estrop?
I was wondering if you or the chief might explain. I know we've done this in the past, but
Yeah, again, this is an annual award program that we're able to work through. Specifically on this one is a partnership or collaborative cooperation with our county folks. And so we actually take turns each year applying for these funds. This year is our turn. So hence why we have in there the language so that we can provide the half to the county, but we can use it for various equipment purchases and so forth for our police officers. And so we'll utilize it to help offset, again, expenses that we incur as it relates to purchasing equipment and so forth for our division.
I also would like to add, I'm very pleased to see us going after a number of grants. Chief, I'm glad you're out there hunting for those dollars. We can put them to good use, obviously, and so keep up the good work. Thank you.
Comments from the audience? Clerk, call the roll.
Mrs. Tackett?
Yes.
Mrs. Brown?
Yes.
Dr. Estrop?
Yes.
Mrs. Houston?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Confirming and approving the increase of a purchase order in an amount not to exceed $31,000 for a total cost not to exceed $105,500 with Majors Enterprises for the Auburn Avenue Emergency Sewer Repair.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Other comments from commissioners? Dr. Estrop?
Yes, I was wondering if you might tell us the extent of the emergency, what's going on.
Yeah, specifically commission. So this is out on Auburn Avenue near our new fire station. And as we're prepping to pave the roadways of Auburn and Erie there, we're doing, again, the underground infrastructure work. And specifically here, there's a 60-inch sewer and about a 12-foot section needed completely replaced. And so that is the change order that you see here. And why it's relatively pricey is because it's a 60-inch pipe and that 12-foot section.
And I assume that it was damaged, and the idea of having our fire trucks, our equipment run over that could damage the equipment. Obviously, it could also create obviously a big hole in the road.
Yeah, again, in commission, one of the biggest things is part of our paving program, and I know we talked about the neighborhood street paving program tonight, is we want to protect our investment. And so repairing and fixing the underground infrastructure is critically important on projects like this, because the last thing we want to do is go in and pave a street and then have a water, sewer, stormwater, some other issue that means we have to tear that street up right away. And so we want to protect our investment by investing in that infrastructure underground before we pave the new street.
Thank you.
Comments from the audience? Clerk, call the roll.
Mrs. Brown?
Yes.
Dr. Estrop?
Yes.
Mrs. Houston?
Yes.
Mrs. Tackett?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes. The next are emergency ordinances, which require a supermajority, which is a 4 out of 5 vote.
Vacating a strip of land approximately 210 feet in length, being approximately 50 feet off the west side of Astor Lane and approximately 46 feet off the east side of Astor Lane, and declaring an emergency therein.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Are there comments from commissioners? Dr. Estrop?
Just wondering if you could tell us why we're seeking to abandon this property.
Yeah, so this is a section of roadway in the former Next Edge plat. So there was a cul-de-sac there, existing cul-de-sac, and as we prepare this for residential development, shaving off kind of the wings of that cul-de-sac was important for the residential lots. And then as we work to also create emergency access only between Prime Ohio 1 and the new development at Melody Parks, we felt comfortable going ahead and proceeding with this right-of-way vacation.
There's not a through street there at this point.
No, there is not. And again, we wouldn't be looking at putting a through street. It would be looking at doing an emergency vehicle access only between that area.
Yeah. Thank you.
Comments from the audience? Clerk, call the roll.
Dr. Estrop?
Yes.
Mrs. Tackett?
Yes.
Mrs. Brown?
Yes.
Mrs. Houston?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Authorizing the city manager to enter into a development incentive agreement, non-residential development with Vanny Nall and Celine Lornall to provide for water and sewer services to real property outside the city limits, and declaring an emergency therein.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Are there comments from commissioners?
I was just, Brian,
ahead,
can you
Bridget.
go over, just to remind everyone again how it works when someone requests water services like this and who pays for what?
Yeah, so a development incentive agreement, we enter into that when they're not currently annexed into the city. So if they want access to our water or sewer infrastructure and they're not already a part of the city, they would enter into this DIA agreement. And any improvements to connect would be made by the property owner that is entering into that DIA. So the city wouldn't be paying for this connection. It would be the property owner paying to create that connection, but we have to enter into this DIA agreement with them to provide that access.
Specifically, isn't this a care center in their?
Yes, so this is the old Geyer and Associates office building that's there on Upper Valley by the Buckeye Barn, and they are working to establish it as a daycare, which, as we know, that is a challenge and a need in our community as well. And so this is one of the last steps for them to be able to proceed with opening that daycare.
Thank you.
Thank you. Comments from the audience? Clerk, call the roll.
Mrs. Houston?
Yes.
Mrs. Tackett?
Yes.
Mrs. Brown?
Yes.
Dr. Estrop?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes. New items?
Appointing Steve Thompson to the Springfield Regional Energy Special Improvement District Incorporated Board of Directors and declaring an emergency therein.
I'll move.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Other comments from commissioners? From the audience? Clerk, call the roll.
Mrs. Brown?
Yes.
Mrs. Houston?
Yes.
Mrs. Tackett?
Yes.
Dr. Estrop?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Appointing Tom Franzen to the Melody Parks New Community Authority Board of Trustees and declaring an emergency therein.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Other comments from commissioners? From the audience? Clerk, call the roll.
Mrs. Tackett?
Yes.
Mrs. Houston?
Yes.
Mrs. Brown?
Yes.
Dr. Estrop?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes. Are there any announcements from commissioners?
I have several.
Go ahead.
I would like to extend my congratulations to all the recipients of the 59th Annual Beautification Awards, particularly Steve and Sue Van Zant, who received the Home of the Year Award. The Beautification Awards Committee boasts an impressive 168 years of collective service to our community. So thank you also to that committee for being a part of making Springfield beautiful. I want to mention that a thank you to the Sheriff's Department as well for partnering with our Springfield City Police Department and keeping the city safe. I would like to remind folks that early voting has started, so head over to the Board of Elections and you can go ahead and start voting. And then this Thursday is World Mental Health Day, and shining a spotlight on the need for mental health. And the theme this year is it is time to prioritize mental health in the workplace. So I just want to thank the providers and encourage people to make it a priority for all in their workplace. Thank you.
It's very important. Dr. Estrop?
Thank you. I had the good fortune to attend a housing consortium meeting today. This is a group that volunteers, both public and private sector, who have been working together for now about 6 years on trying to improve housing. I learned a couple of things of importance today. We are collaborating at the city, county, and county treasurer level at a high level that I have never seen before. And I want to congratulate all of the people involved in that. Pam Littlejohn, our county treasurer, Logan, and the community development department of the city, and the economic development part of the county. I'm wondering, Brian, if at some point we could have a condensed version of their presentation at a work session, because it was very illuminating. I learned of two things today that I want to bring to the attention of my fellow commissioners. One is the current bills are being sent out for delinquent taxes in Clark County. The total amount of delinquent taxes is, I recall, Logan, between $2 and $2.5 million. Those are taxes that people haven't paid. Now, I think it's also important to put it in this perspective. In this state, 67% approximately of those tax dollars go to the public school, not just the city school, but all the public schools in Clark County. So we have taxpayers who in fact are dodging paying their taxes and shorting our schools by over $2 million. And we are working together to go after that money. It is rightfully due the city, the county, and in particular, our school. The other thing I learned today, and I will ask Regina to make copies of this for everyone, is there is a bill that was passed by the Ohio Senate Bill 186, that requires all delinquent and current property taxes on real property to be paid before the property is sold or subdivided. I thought that was already in law, and it's not. So somebody can sell you property real cheap, only for you to find out after the fact that it maybe has a $50,000 tax lien against it, which has to be paid. The other part of this is it prohibits the transfer of property sold at a tax foreclosure sale unless the purchaser supplies an affidavit stating that the purchaser or certain related parties do not own tax delinquent properties in the state, or that such delinquency is justified or erroneous. Pass the state Senate. We need to work with Representative Willis to get this passed in the House. Reason this is so important is these provisions also apply to commercial property. So some of the rental houses that are up right now, we found out today, Dave Estrop owns, and I don't, owns 3 or 4 houses here in the city that he's using for rental property. I have each one in a different LLC name. I'm not paying the taxes on any one of the 5. And I simply switch ownership, and it starts a 2-year cycle all over again. Even though Dave Estrop has essentially retained ownership of all 5 properties, I use the LLCs to mask who really owns the property and avoid paying my property taxes, because it's just constantly in motion. So this bill would prevent that from happening. I think this would help the city of Springfield and other communities significantly. So I want to encourage people at Senate Bill 186, and I will provide it, as I said, to Regina, and ask you, Regina, to send it to everybody here. And if we might consider putting it on our web page, that would be great.
Excellent.
Thank you.
As one who pays their taxes on time, property taxes, I think that would be fair to pass for sure.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any other comment announcements?
Yes, Commissioner, I just wanted to share something with you. As you all know, our 2024 Culture Fest celebration, which was originally scheduled for the 27th and 28th of September, had to be canceled. Understand this decision was not made lightly, but the safety and well-being of our community remain our top priority. I wanted to share with you and the community today, our city received a heartfelt letter from the West Middle School Culture Club in Brownsburg, Indiana. These incredible students took the time to send love and light during this challenging moment in Springfield history. I'd like to share just a brief excerpt of their uplifting words. We are the West Middle School Culture Club. We meet after school twice a month to plan, celebrate all people, work together, and to do our part to lead our school in diversity, equity, and inclusion. Among our plans for this school year is our Culture Fair taking place on February 13th. When we learned of the troubles faced in Springfield, Ohio, our hearts went out to you. Hearing that you have felt the need to cancel your Culture Fest fair for 2024, we wanted to write you out of our friendship, care, and concern. You will find some of our names on the enclosed cards. One world, one people. Sincerely, the 25 students of our club and our school sponsors. So I know we all would feel that on behalf of the city, we want to extend just that deep gratitude to the students of Brownsburg West Middle School for their kindness and thoughtfulness in reaching out. Your support is a reminder that we are all connected, even across distances. For us as a community, Springfield, as we move forward together, let us hold on to this spirit of positivity and unity, and together we'll continue to create a vibrant and resilient community. So thank you for letting me share that. If you'd like to see the cards, individual cards, I know Logan has them in her office. So if you're in City Hall and want to see them, certainly
Awesome.
stop by and read through them. But
Thank you for sharing. Thank you. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Clerk, call the roll.
Mrs. Brown?
Yes.
Dr. Estrop?
Yes.
Mrs. Tackett?
Yes.
Mrs. Houston?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes, thank you for coming.